What's going on, everyone? Hope you're doing well. Wanted to take some time out this evening to talk about an issue that I find way too prevalent across the industry. And it's really just a harsh truth that I wish I would have heard years ago, especially when I first started trading, that would have kind of empowered me to actually take things into my own hands, right, and take full responsibility, for my circumstances, right, to get me to that objective that ultimately I had set out and as a goal for myself, to become a consistent and profitable trader. This is going to be something that I wish I heard and hopefully, offer some good insight and value to you to kind of step back and reflect upon where your current thinking and mindset is when it comes to this topic, and that is blaming other people. Right? There's way too much projecting onto others and laying the blame onto others for the circumstances that you're in today, when in reality, the circumstances that you have right now are a result of the decisions that you have made yourself. Right? So we have to be able to take full responsibility for where we are. And part of the issue really is the handout mentality. Right? And that often is a recurring theme among new traders, right? You come into the industry, and that kind of ties back to prior videos that hopefully you've watched, where I talk about mindset and approach when it comes to trading, right? So many people come into this thinking that this is something you can become rich overnight, right? And the fixation, right, the priority is making as much money as possible, as soon as possible, as opposed to prioritizing and fixating on the education, right? But that's a lesson from another day. And I want to get into, the handout mentality. And because a lot of people have that mindset, right, you then immediately turn to external solutions. Who can provide me the signals or the crystal ball strategy, the method that will make me as much money as soon as possible, right? And so personally, Nate and I, especially when we first started trading, the first year that we were trading FX, we didn't even look at a chart, right? We were jumping from signal service to signal service and laying the blame, right, for losing trades and losing streaks, right? It's very easy, right, to lay the blame then on the signal provider, right? And I remember vividly many circumstances when Nate and I would look at each other and just scream and curse at the signal provider, right, for losing us money, right? But in reality, we're the ones who made the stupid decision to enlist the services of a signal provider to begin with, right? So that should have been something that we had taken responsibility over, right? And instead, we wanted to project onto the signal provider the feelings that we ought to have projected onto ourselves, right? That we should have been able to reflect upon and realize it was not a good decision that we made joining the signal service to begin with. That's our fault. That's our responsibility. Okay, and so that leads us into blind trust. There's a lot of blind trust, in this industry. And it's not just signal providers, right? It's also courses, right? People jumping from course to course, looking for that new crystal ball strategy, method, jargon, terminology, right? To get that competitive edge. And instead of taking a strategy that actually works, that resonates with you and sticking with it, right? It doesn't work out initially, right? Or maybe it works out for just a little while and then it stops working for you, and then you blame that person who taught it to you, and you move on to the next. And the cycle simply repeats itself because you are looking externally for your solutions, for the solutions to your problem, as opposed to internally. And I promise you, the solutions are internal. It's not external. It's not from somebody else, right? And so Nate and I, we put a lot of blind trust, right? Thinking, we don't have the capability, we don't have the capacity, we weren't born natural, natural traders being able to analyze the markets on a professional level, making excuses for ourselves so that we could then go out and find somebody else to blame, right? For it not working out. It's not our fault. We were given the wrong technical tools, right? We were given bad signals. That was a terrible setup that he sent out. That was terrible analysis. Why would he have done that? Why would he have sent that out? Well, why did you take it? Right? And so, it really is projecting those emotions, right? And blocking out the fact that deep down it's your fault, but you can't admit it. Right? You've made these decisions yourself. It's your money. It's your life. It's your goals. Right? But instead, everybody looks externally. Right? And so you project onto others, and what you're doing is you're letting go of control, right? And something, a lesson that I learned, in really the broader personal finance world, right? It's not just applicable to trading FX, but just in general, right? If you relinquish control over your finances, over your assets, over your money to somebody else, right, you are taking on a lot more risk yourself. And it's counterintuitive because these other people, can proclaim to be professionals. They can proclaim to have your best interest at heart. Right? They can make things sound so complicated and complex to the point where you couldn't possibly understand it, so you have to put your trust into them. Right? And so handing everything over to somebody else externally, in my opinion, you're taking on a whole lot more risk. The more control you have over your assets, the more control you have over the trades that you're in, the decisions that you're making, the less risk, right? And the more reward, the more knowledge, the more education that you have. Right? And so quit handing everything over to other people, thinking that that's going to solve all of your problems. Right? The solution, you see it at the top here, the solution is ultimately within yourself. You just have to find it. You have to have the motivation and the dedication to find it yourself. Right? In order to do that, you have to kick your ego and be brutally honest with yourself. Right? Do you have too much pride to have a conversation with yourself and say, I messed up. This is my fault. These are my problems. I've gotten myself into this hole, right? And only I can dig out of it. Are you able to have that conversation with yourself? Right? Or are you going to continue to blame other people and time continues to pass by and you haven't met your objectives and you ultimately quit and fail? Or fail and quit. Right? So again, a lot of this is psychologically based, it's psychologically driven, right? And it's why Nate and I put so much emphasis on psychology, right? And why we're putting together this course that's going to be released less than a week from now on Monday of next week, to really drive home fundamental psychological concepts to make sure our mindset, right, is a professional approach with every single facet and component of trading, right? Whether that be in technical analysis or just in general, your perspective, your approach, your mindset to the entire thing. Right? So at the end of the day, there's nobody who will prioritize your own best interest more than you do. Nobody. right? You have to be able to look out for yourself, right? You should be your own best advocate, right? And that ties back to the lack of control, right? And personally, it's like once I discovered smart money concepts and I had the practice and repetition sticking with smart money concepts and being able to then, instead of focusing on jumping from signal service to signal service or from course to course, trying to learn the new crystal ball method, I had the continuity of strategy to where I could then focus on my own mind and my own psychology, right? Mastering my own emotions to the point that I crossed a threshold where I then looked back and I said to myself, how could I have possibly ever trusted somebody else? Why would I have ever taken other people's signals? I don't trust them anymore. I would never take another signal in my life. I would never take another trade from somebody else, right? Unless my analysis obviously concurs with it. But blindly trusting somebody else, why would I have ever done that? Right? I've gotten to that point. I've crossed that boundary, that threshold, where I can then look back and see how stupid it was. Right? So nobody will prioritize your own best interest more than you. That's not to say that there aren't good people and mentors out there, right, who do have your interest at heart, right, and who want to help you reach your goals. That's very critical. It's very important to have that collaboration and that support and guidance from somebody who has experience. I'm not discrediting that whatsoever. It doesn't have to be Nate and me. It can be somebody else. If they do care about, they have to care about you and be willing to build that kind of personal relationship and not offer the cookie cutter approach, right? And really customize things and have those personal conversations to reach those solutions. But still, at the end of the day, I can only speak from my experience, right? I'm my own person. I was able to prioritize my own best interest, figure out myself what works best for me. Doesn't mean that exact system, that exact same approach is going to work for you, because we're all different people, right? We all have different personalities. Only you know yourself the best. I don't know all of your circumstances. I don't know what's going on in your personal life that might be affecting your trading life. Right, so there's a lot of factors to where you have to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, right? And stop making excuses. Stop blaming other people. Understand that it's the decisions that you make, right? And the way you prioritize your focus that is ultimately what's going to propel you to success. All right, and it's not going to come from somebody else. I promise you that. It just isn't. And it's the harsh truth. It's the reality, right? And here I am, as a mentor, right? And Nate and I get on here and quite often say things that, probably would even deter people from joining, our service or another mentorship program or another course or something like that. But it's because we're transparent. We speak the harsh truth. We want to be the people that, explain the realities of trading, right, that we would have wanted to hear years ago, right? And it's as simple as that, right? So, again, none of this is ever to scare you away, right? It's really just to empower you to understand what it truly takes in order to be successful, to become a professional, to become part of that top 1%. Right? It's a lot. It really is. Right? But at the end of the day, that solution is inside of you. It's inside of your head. Right? And having a consistent, unwavering approach to everything that you do within this business. All right? So I hope you've enjoyed this video. It was relatively brief, right, but to the point. I wanted to kind of tackle this very specific topic, right? You have it within yourself, right? You don't have to be born an extremely gifted, talented trader, right? You don't have to have some specific gene, right? You just have to be focused. You have to be in tune with your own mind. And everything that you do, right? And understand that you yourself are going to be the one who gets you across the finish line and nobody else will. They'll help you. They might hold you along the way, give you the training wheels. But at the end of the day, you have to take the training wheels off and do it yourself. Right? And I know you all can. Right? Everybody can. Right? You just have to put in the work and the dedication. Right? And simply be honest with yourself. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to do these intermittently, just kind of tackle very specific topics, and issues that I find prevalent across the industry, to kind of offer practical solutions and perspectives to really help you kind of expedite your learning curve, right, and help you reach your goals as soon as possible. All right, so talk to you next time. Thanks.